This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Kof Lamid Aleph. I'm rolling on Kof Lamid Amid Beis at the end of the fourth wide line. And today's shir should be an incredible Zchos Rafua Shalema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyat Dishmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring the Kayach HaTaira, the Zchos HaTaira. It should bring Yeshuais and a complete refuah shlema for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva. We're holding at the end of the fourth white line. Amar le Rav Asi le Rav Yochanan. Ki Amar le Mar halacha. When Mar says halacha, Ki Amar le Mar halacha hachi nevid ma'isa. Are we able to do like it? We're just coming off the difference in halacha, halacha lemaisa. So Rav Asi says to Rav Yochanan that when Mar says this is the halacha, could we actually do such? Amar Rav Yochanan says, Loi tavidu. No, you should not. Ad damina halacha lemaisa. Responds Rav Yochanan to Rav Asi, when I say halacha, you should not act as such until I tell you it is halacha lemaisa. Amrei Rav Rabba. Well, Rav Huna Rav Yeshua ki asa piska didaina tina lekamechu. When a star has a psak did that comes before you v'chazite bi be'pircha, and you think that I made a mistake, you see that I paskined as such, but it looks like it was in error. Loi takru, do not rip up the star ad ta'asitu likamai, until you come in front of me and you discuss it with me. If I have a reason, then I'll tell you. And if not, then I will be chayzer. But what happens if I'm already have nifter? And therefore you see a psak din of mine and you can't discuss it with me, what should you do? Again, you should not rip up the psak din. But if you have a kash on it, don't paskin like it. Says the Gemara, don't rip it up. Because if I was there, maybe I would have been able to explain what I was saying, and therefore maybe it would have a valid explanation. However, why? A dayan could only paskin based on that which his eyes see. And this, of course, is a very large discussion, exactly how this works. But the simple, simple words of the Gemara are that one cannot paskin as such unless he understands it. And therefore, if he has a kasha on the psak, so in the dayan alamashin of rois, and you're not able to follow such a psak if you yourself don't understand it, or more particularly have a kasha on it. Says the Gemara, let's go back to our sugya of Yerusha. Ba'i Rava asks Rava, Bibari hey, how does it work if the person is healthy? We're going back to the din of Rav Yochanan and Breika, that one is allowed to give one yayiresh more than another. Asks Rav Yochanan and Breika, asks Rava, would Rav Yochanan and Breika say the same thing about a healthy person? Ki Kamar Rav Yochanan and Breika, explains the Gemara b'shchimera. Devar Raisa, who was he only talking about a shchimera, who is one that usually gives away items. That's who bequeaths items. Avol bibari loy, but a healthy person, it would not work. Oidel more, perhaps on the fifth line. Avil bibari nami, maybe Rav Yochanan Breika would indeed say is in even by a bari. Says the Gemara, Amar le Rav Mershashil Rava. He responds, Tashema, bring your raya. Amar le Rav Nasa and the Rebbe. Rav Nasa said to Rebbe, Shenisa Mishnaschem Rav Yochanan ben Breika. You tore your Mishnah according to Rav Yochanan Breika. What is that? That's an I've learned in a Mishnah. Like Kasav Labini and Dechrin Davin Minai. We learned in a Mishnah, bringing us back to Ksubis. The husband did not write the following tonight in the Ksuba bin Dechrin Davin Minai. The male kids you can have from me. Einon Yartin Kasav Ksuba Seich. They will inherit the money of the Ksuba. Yoisra al Chulkeim, in addition to the share, the Machuain with their brothers. So if he did not write this extra clause which allows the children to get the ksuba, what's the halacha? Chayiv, even without this clause, the husband is obligated to give it to the kids. Why? Shetanai bezdinu, because the mice is a tanai bezdin. So regardless if the husband made this stipulation or not, he has to give it over to the kids. The Gemara wants to prove from here that when the Mishnah says it is a Yerusha, this goes of Yechim and Breika. So we see that Rebbe would even baskin as such. Rabbi replied to Rav Nassan, Yisvon Tinan. The way we read the Mishnahs, they will take, doesn't mean that they will be Yairish, they will actually inherit that area, but rather they will take. So this could fit even with the Chachamim. Vama Rebbe, and Rebbe says, Yaldois Hayasabi, I had a chutzpah, I was possessed by childness. V'asti Panai, and I had the chutzpah bin Nasan Abavli, to Rav Nasan Abavli. Ella de Kaimalon. But we have to ask that what? Binyan Dechrin Lai Tarfa Mimeshavdi. Binyan Dechrin, the male children do not get from Mishubadim. So if you're going to explain like you just told me, Yosvon Tenan, if you're going to tell me that the way that we learn the Mishnah is not that they're going to be Yairish, but rather Yosvon, they're going to get it as Yerusha. Excuse me, the opposite. They're not going to get as Yerusha, rather they can get as a gift. Am I lo tarfi mi mishabdi? You should even get it from Mishubadim. Elishmami no yartun tenan. Must mean that the way to learn it is yartun, that they will inherit it. And therefore, it says the Gemara that when Rav Nelson explained that it must mean that the kids will take, that's incorrect. Therefore, it has to fit with Rav Yechim and Breika, as we asked. Says the Gemara, Man Shamisla de Islay Hai Svara. Who holds of this aforementioned Svara that what? That when you're giving something to a Yeri, you should not give to one person more than the next. Of course, this is our Sugya. Rav Yechim and Breika. Ushma Mina. So if it's Rav Yechim and Breika, then what do we have? A Raya, Afilu Bibari. So then we have a Raya that even by a healthy person, that the husband is allowed to give to one more than the next. Amar le Rapapa Labaya Bein Leman Damar Yosvan. Bein Leman Damar Yarton. Ha'ina the Makta Davar Shalba Elam. You can already give it away because it's not yet in the world. Nafil Ramir Damar the Makta Davar Shalba Elam. Even according to Shitas Ramir La'ilam, Honey Milu Davar Shay Yashnai Ba'ilam. Awal Damar Shayna Ba'ilam. Law, that's only something that was at one point in the world, but something that was never in the world. You cannot give over. Ramir would agree does not work. So how is Ksubas Binyan Dechrin in any case going to work, whether it's a Matana, whether it's Yerusha, it's Davar Shalai Ba'Laylam, meaning the kids are not Ba'ilam. So rather, how must it work? If we see a pretense that the kids are going to inherit even though they're B'chlal not Ba'ilam, must be, what the reason is, El Tanai Bezdin. Must be that it's being given, it's considered a Tanai Bezdin. Therefore, says the Gemara, really, we're going back to square one. It should be able to apply even according to the sheet of the Chacham. Says the Gemara, Amar Lei, Shiny Hachanami Tanai Bezdin. So by us as well, it should be the same thing. Excuse me. Ella Tanai Bezdin Shiny Hachanami Tanai Bezdin Shiny. So Amar Lei Abai responds, Mishub the Kamapik Lei Beloshin Yarton. Rav Nasa told Rabbi the Mishnah was like Rechum and Broika. Why? Because it said the Lashon of Yarton inherit. And it doesn't say they're going to take. So then how could it work? Basically, we're grappling with this detail that the Lashon of the Mishnah sounds like it's Yarton. Hadar Amar Abaye is Chayzer, and he says, they'll say, no, I disagree, I take it back. Damri, why did it not? Like us, bin Nukvin, Avilachim Minai, Yavi Yosef, Ebesi, Vietnam, Midachasai, Ad, the Lichon, the Gavrin. Someone does not write that the daughters that you will have will be able to live in my house and support from my estate until they get married to husbands. Chayiv, why should Tanai Bezdin? Why? Because it is a Tanai Bezdin. And therefore, when you could give to the daughters, it's considered a matana. When you give to the sons, it's considered Yerusha. The Rabbanan are going to be maskim. So says the Gemara, the Mishnah fits perfectly with the Chachamim. So we're back to square one. Why did the Rebbe have to learn the Mishnah that it's talking about they're going to take? He could have explained that it's working even if they will inherit. Mimai debachad beidina itkin. Ask the Gemara, you're making an assumption which is not necessarily accurate. Who says that it all came from one Bezdin? Mimai debachad beidina itkon. Who says these were all instituted in one Bezdin? Dilma betray beidina and itkon. Maybe it was two different batei dinim, and therefore it doesn't have to necessarily be like Abaye is saying that one is a Yerusha. What is a matana? Says no, looks like a Tani Reisha. What does the Reisha say? The sons inherit and the daughters get fed. My abanim einon yarsha el achar misavim. So says the Gemara that just like the sons on the last narrow line only get inheritance after the father dies, so to the daughters lo ziyazunu will not be supported. Ella la'achar misavim will only be after the father is no longer. So now explains the Gemara in the first wide line. If it's all one bezin, then it makes sense that we can equate the two and we can learn one from the next. It's no shaykh. There's two different batei dinim, two different tekanas. So how can we learn now one from the next? Says the Gemara, really, it was two beidina. Beidina Basra talking ki beidina kama kechlo tiksha atakanta. Says the Gemara is not conclusive. Why? Because we could say that it was two batei dinim, but the second bezdin made the takana and the mannerism of the first bezdin. Why? So you don't able to ask a stira between one bezdin and the next, and therefore concludes the Gemara that it could be that these different takanas were made not at the same time, not in the same place. And therefore, when Abaye said that we should equate the two of them, it's not accurate. And therefore, we don't have to reckon with Abaye's statement. That concludes this topic. Why? Because once we can say they're in two batei dinim, then the two do not necessarily have to work one off of the other. We begin a new sugya at the end of the fourth white line. Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel HaKosev Kol Nachasav LeIshtoi. If someone writes over his entire estate to his wife, it only makes her into an apotropis, but she does not actually acquire the estate. Says the Gemara, Pshita, V'noya Gadol. If it was his elder son, last apotropis is the same thing. V'noya Katan Mai. What happens if the one he's giving it to is the younger son? Says the Gemara, Itmar of Chanilai Bar Idi Amar Shmuel. Afilu b'nai katan hamuta ba'arisa, in a crib, still he will get an apotropis, an administrator best to take care of it, and then he will get it. Says the Gemara, Pshita b'nayu acher, that if the recipient is either the son or someone outside of the family, acher matana b'nai ba'apotropis, ishta arusa v'ishta gerusha, be'emat ishta v'acher la'acher be'matana v'ishta apotropis, ishta v'arusa v'ishta gerusha, if the person is here to his arusa or his grusha, then she's going to receive it as a matana. We're going to stop over here. Tomorrow we'll continue asking questions. B'siyata Tishmaya.